For years, one of Hollywood's fastest-rising stars quietly battled a personal insecurity that millions of women around the world understand all too well. Long before the award nominations, blockbuster deals, and global fame, Sydney Sweeney says she struggled with how she felt about her own body, specifically her breasts. But according to the actress, the turning point didn't come from stylists, Hollywood standards, or social media approval. It came from a television series known for its raw storytelling and controversial honesty. That show is Euphoria. In a recent interview that quickly sparked conversations across entertainment media and social platforms, Sweeney revealed that portraying Cassie Howard on the critically acclaimed HBO drama ultimately helped her feel more confident about her body, something she says she hadn't always experienced growing up. The statement may sound simple, but in Hollywood, where body image, fame, and public scrutiny collide, it opens a much larger conversation about confidence, vulnerability, and the pressure placed on young actresses. How did a provocative television drama help reshape an actress's relationship with her own body? Why are fans and critics reacting so strongly to the comment? And what does this moment reveal about the broader cultural conversation around body image in modern entertainment? Tonight, we're taking a deep look into the story behind Sydney Sweeney's remarks, the impact of Euphoria, and why this conversation is resonating far beyond Hollywood. Because this isn't just about one actress. For many viewers across America and around the world, it's about confidence, self-acceptance, and the complicated intersection between fame and identity. And it all starts with the rise of Sydney Sweeney. To understand why Sydney Sweeney's recent comments have sparked such widespread attention, it helps to step back and examine the trajectory of her career and the unique position she now occupies in Hollywood. Over the past several years, Sydney Sweeney has transformed from a relatively unknown television actress into one of the most recognizable young stars in the entertainment industry. Born in 1997 in Spokane, Washington, Sweeney began acting at a young age, gradually building a resume through guest appearances on television series and smaller film roles. Early performances included appearances on shows like Grey's Anatomy, Criminal Minds, and The Handmaid's Tale. Industry insiders often described her as a determined performer with an unusual level of focus for someone so early in her career. But everything changed in 2019. That year, HBO premiered Euphoria, a bold and visually distinctive drama exploring teenage identity, addiction, sexuality, trauma, and mental health. Created by filmmaker Sam Levinson, the series quickly became one of the most talked-about shows on television. At its center was Zendaya, whose performance as Rue Bennett would eventually earn multiple Emmy Awards. But Euphoria wasn't just about one character. It was an ensemble story about adolescence in the digital age, and one of its most emotionally complex characters was Cassie Howard, played by Sydney Sweeney. Cassie is portrayed as a deeply vulnerable young woman whose identity becomes entangled with relationships, validation, and the way others perceive her. Throughout the series, the character grapples with insecurity, heartbreak, and an intense desire to be loved. The role demanded extraordinary emotional range from Sweeney. In several episodes, Cassie's storyline delves into issues surrounding body image, sexuality, and self-worth, topics that have become central to conversations about the show. The performance drew praise from critics across major American media outlets. Reviewers noted that Sweeney brought a layered vulnerability to the character, balancing emotional fragility with moments of explosive intensity. By the time the second season aired in 2022, Cassie Howard had become one of the most discussed characters on television. And Sydney Sweeney had officially arrived as a major Hollywood star. But with that rise came a level of scrutiny that few young actors are fully prepared for. Success in Hollywood often comes with a paradox. The same spotlight that elevates an actor's career can also amplify the most personal aspects of their life. For Sydney Sweeney, that spotlight intensified dramatically following the success of Euphoria. Within a short period of time, she landed roles in high-profile projects including The White Lotus, romantic comedies, studio films, and major brand partnerships. She quickly became a fixture on red carpets, magazine covers, and entertainment headlines. But fame in the age of social media is rarely simple. Every appearance, every interview, every photograph becomes part of a global conversation. And for actresses in particular, discussions about body image often become unavoidable. Over the past decade, Hollywood has faced increasing scrutiny about how female performers are portrayed and discussed. Conversations about unrealistic beauty standards, objectification, and online harassment have become central to broader cultural debates. In interviews over the years, Sweeney has acknowledged that public commentary about her appearance, especially online, has sometimes been difficult. Some critics have argued that Euphoria itself sparked debates about how young characters are portrayed on screen. Others have defended the show as an unfiltered exploration of modern adolescence. But according to Sweeney, portraying Cassie had a surprising personal impact. Rather than making her feel more self-conscious, she says the experience ultimately helped her embrace her body. And that's the moment that sparked headlines across the entertainment world. In a recent conversation with media outlets discussing her career and the impact of Euphoria, Sydney Sweeney reflected candidly on how the series influenced her confidence. The actress explained that portraying Cassie forced her to confront aspects of herself that she hadn't always fully accepted. According to her comments, the role ultimately helped her feel more confident about her breasts, something she said had once been a source of insecurity. Reports from the interview indicate that Sweeney described how performing emotionally vulnerable scenes allowed her to rethink the way she viewed her body. Instead of focusing on external judgment, she began to see her body as simply part of who she is. In essence, the role helped her separate public perception from personal identity. For many viewers, the admission felt refreshingly honest. Hollywood actors rarely speak openly about specific insecurities related to their bodies, especially in such direct terms. But Sweeney's remarks quickly traveled across entertainment headlines, sparking conversations across American media outlets and social platforms. Some fans praised the honesty. Others debated whether Euphoria itself contributed to the pressures surrounding body image. And suddenly, a personal reflection had turned into a national discussion. To understand the significance of Sydney Sweeney's comments, media analysts say it's important to examine the broader context of how body image is discussed in Hollywood. Entertainment psychologist commentary in mainstream media often points out that actors are frequently placed under intense scrutiny regarding their physical appearance. For young actresses in particular, the pressure can begin early in their careers and intensify as their visibility grows. At the same time, shows like Euphoria are known for presenting characters in emotionally vulnerable and sometimes physically revealing situations. Supporters argue that this series reflects the complicated realities of teenage identity in the modern era. Critics, however, have occasionally questioned whether the show's visual style contributes to the same pressures it seeks to explore. Sweeney's comments add a unique perspective to that debate. Rather than describing the experience as exploitative or uncomfortable, she suggests the role helped her reclaim a sense of ownership over her own body. Media analysts say this distinction is important. In recent years, Hollywood has seen growing conversations about performer autonomy, consent, and creative control, particularly in projects involving intimate scenes. Many productions now employ intimacy coordinators, professionals who work with actors and directors to ensure that such scenes are performed safely and respectfully. Within that evolving framework, Sweeney's reflections highlight how individual actors may interpret the same creative experience in very different ways. For her, the role became a source of empowerment. Within hours of the interview circulating online, the reaction across social media platforms was immediate. Fans of Euphoria began sharing clips, quotes, and commentary discussing Sweeney's remarks. On platforms like X, TikTok, and Instagram, thousands of posts appeared debating what her comments meant for conversations about body image. Many supporters praised the actress for speaking openly about personal insecurity. Some users wrote that hearing a globally recognized celebrity acknowledge those feelings made them feel less alone. Others argued that Sweeney's comments highlighted the complicated relationship between self-confidence and external validation. Media commentators also noted that the discussion reflects a broader cultural shift. In recent years, younger audiences have increasingly embraced conversations about mental health, self-acceptance, and authenticity from public figures. When celebrities speak candidly about personal challenges, those moments often resonate deeply with viewers. But as with nearly every viral conversation online, not all reactions were the same. Some critics questioned whether the conversation should focus more broadly on how Hollywood portrays women's bodies. Others debated the role that shows like Euphoria play in shaping public perception. Still, the overwhelming takeaway from the online discussion was clear. People were talking. And that conversation extended far beyond the entertainment industry. As Sydney Sweeney's career continues to accelerate, moments like this highlight an important shift in how celebrities interact with their audiences. Today's Hollywood stars are no longer distant figures seen only on movie screens. Through interviews, podcasts, and social media, actors often speak directly about their personal experiences, sometimes in ways that previous generations of celebrities rarely did. For Sweeney, the comments arrive at a pivotal moment in her career. She has already established herself as a dramatic performer capable of carrying emotionally complex roles. At the same time, she's expanding into producing and exploring new creative opportunities within the industry. Industry insiders believe that openness about personal topics may further strengthen her connection with audiences. In an entertainment landscape where authenticity often resonates more than perfection, vulnerability can become a powerful asset. At the heart of this story is something deeply human. Confidence isn't something people simply wake up with one day. For many individuals, especially young women growing up in a world saturated with images and opinions, it's a process that evolves over time. Sydney Sweeney's experience reflects that reality. Despite fame, success, and global recognition, she's still navigating the same internal questions that millions of people face every day. How do we see ourselves? How much should we care about the opinions of others? And when does self-acceptance finally begin? For fans watching her journey unfold, the answer may lie in the same place Sweeney found it, learning to view oneself with a little more compassion. Stories like this remind us that behind every celebrity headline is a real person navigating real experiences. If this conversation resonated with you, share your thoughts below. How do you feel about the growing openness from celebrities discussing body image and confidence? And if you want more deep dive stories breaking down the biggest conversations happening in Hollywood right now, make sure you subscribe and stay with us. Because the intersection of fame, identity, and culture is changing faster than ever. And we'll be here to break down every moment of it. To truly understand why Sydney Sweeney's comments about confidence and body image have sparked such widespread attention, it's important to step back and look at the bigger picture, the remarkable trajectory of her career and the cultural moment she now represents. Over the last several years, Sydney Sweeney has transformed from a relatively unknown young performer into one of the most recognizable faces in modern television and film. It's a rise that didn't happen overnight. Instead, it was built gradually through persistence, difficult auditions, and roles that demanded emotional vulnerability long before mainstream fame arrived. Industry insiders often describe Sweeney's career path as a textbook example of determination in Hollywood. She began acting as a teenager, traveling frequently between her home in Washington State and Los Angeles to pursue opportunities. At a time when thousands of aspiring actors compete for the same small roles, she steadily built a resume that caught the attention of casting directors. Early television appearances on series such as Grey's Anatomy, Criminal Minds, and Pretty Little Liars gave her exposure to major production environments. These roles were small but important stepping stones. Each appearance demonstrated her ability to convey emotion with subtlety, something that would later become one of her defining strengths as an actress. But even with those early credits, few people in Hollywood could have predicted the scale of attention that would eventually follow. The real turning point arrived when she began landing roles in projects that explored darker, more psychologically complex stories. One of those projects would become a defining moment in modern television. That project was Euphoria. When Euphoria premiered on HBO in 2019, it immediately stood apart from almost anything else on television. Created by filmmaker Sam Levinson, the series presented a stylized yet emotionally raw look at adolescence in the modern digital age. Its visual style, neon lighting, dreamlike cinematography, and emotionally charged storytelling quickly captured the attention of both critics and audiences. At the center of the show was Zendaya, whose performance as Rue Bennett would eventually earn multiple Emmy Awards. But the strength of Euphoria was its ensemble cast. Each character represented a different struggle related to identity, relationships, and self-worth. Sydney Sweeney's character, Cassie Howard, quickly became one of the show's most emotionally complex figures. Cassie is introduced as someone deeply shaped by the need for validation. Throughout the series, her storylines explore themes of insecurity, romantic obsession, and the desire to be loved. The character often finds herself trapped between how she sees herself and how others perceive her. That tension made Cassie one of the most relatable characters on the show, and it also meant that Sweeney had to deliver performances that were intensely vulnerable. For many actors, certain roles become career-defining moments. For Sydney Sweeney, Cassie Howard was exactly that. The character's storyline in Euphoria demanded a level of emotional intensity that few television roles require. Throughout the series, Cassie experiences heartbreak, identity struggles, and intense internal conflict. Season 2 of the show, in particular, placed Cassie at the center of some of the most dramatic moments in the series. In several widely discussed episodes, viewers watch Cassie spiral emotionally as she becomes consumed by a secret relationship that threatens friendships and fractures her sense of identity. The character's desperation to be loved becomes both heartbreaking and uncomfortable to watch. Critics praise Sweeney for her fearless performance. Major entertainment outlets described her acting as emotionally devastating, noting that she captured the fragile psychology of someone constantly searching for approval. But those scenes also required an unusual level of openness from the actress herself. Many of Cassie's storylines involve discussions about how the character is perceived physically by others, something that closely mirrors the real-world pressures actresses often face. That connection between character and personal experience would later become part of Sweeney's reflections about how the role changed her relationship with her own body. The conversation sparked by Sydney Sweeney's comments also touches on a much larger issue within the entertainment industry. For decades, actresses in Hollywood have faced intense scrutiny regarding their appearance. From magazine covers to social media commentary, discussions about physical features often overshadow conversations about talent or artistic achievement. Experts who study media culture say this dynamic has only intensified in the age of digital platforms. In earlier decades, public criticism of celebrities was largely confined to tabloids and entertainment programs. Today, however, social media allows millions of people to comment instantly on a celebrity's appearance. For young performers entering the industry, that environment can be overwhelming. Psychologists who work with actors often point out that body image struggles are extremely common among performers, not because actors are uniquely insecure, but because their profession places